In the heart of a bustling metropolis like New York City, amidst the rhythm of daily life and the hum of diverse voices, there lived a brilliant lawyer named Maya Turner. Maya wasn't just any attorney, she was one of the best in her field, a rising star in civil rights law, and a champion of justice. Her success came not just from her sharp mind and tenacity, but also from her deep sense of empathy and commitment to fighting for what was right. One case, however, would test her ideals, her career, and her humanity in ways she never imagined. It all began with an unusual case. A racist man, Gary Jensen, was the victim of a hate crime. Gary had spent years spreading venomous, racial rhetoric inciting anger and division within his community. His online platforms were filled with incendiary messages, and his personal life was plagued with countless racist encounters. Despite his toxic public persona, he was also a human being, and on one fateful evening, someone had targeted him, leaving him severely injured. The case seemed simple. The law was clear. No one should suffer such violence, no matter their beliefs. But when the victim, Gary Jensen, requested Maya Turner as his lawyer, the world watched in disbelief. Maya, a black lawyer known for defending marginalized communities, was asked to represent the very man whose words had fueled so much hatred. The public was shocked. Many assumed Maya would decline, as most would in her position. After all, she had built her career fighting for justice for those oppressed by individuals like Gary. But Maya, true to her values, understood something deeper. Justice wasn't about punishing people for their past mistakes. It was about ensuring fairness and standing for what was right. She agreed to represent Gary, but not without conditions. She made it clear to the media, her colleagues, and her clients that this case would be different. This was an opportunity to show the world that even the worst among us deserved a chance at redemption, and no one should ever be reduced to their worst actions. The courtroom was electric as Maya stood before the judge, her voice steady and strong, despite the barrage of judgmental glances from the spectators. Gary sat beside her, uncomfortable and out of place, the tension between them palpable. The defense was set to argue that, while Gary's past was full of hate, he was a victim of an unjust act, and no one deserved violence. But it was what Maya said next that caused the courtroom to fall silent. Yes, Gary has made reprehensible choices. Yes, his words have incited harm. But let's not forget that justice is not about turning a blind eye to the flaws of humanity. It is about understanding that we are all capable of change. Gary was wrong, but that does not mean his life has no value. We cannot look at his actions and use them as a justification for further hatred. No, our challenge as a society is to rise above that, to not let revenge cloud our better judgment. The room was frozen. Maya's words hung in the air like a heavy fog. For the first time, Gary, the man who had built his life on perpetuating division, began to understand the weight of what he had done. His heart began to crack, but it wasn't just guilt he felt. It was a glimmer of hope, a sense of responsibility that he had never truly acknowledged before. Maya didn't stop there. If we, as a society, do not allow for redemption, then we are all complicit in perpetuating the cycle of hate. We cannot teach compassion if we ourselves withhold it. Gary's past actions do not excuse the violence against him, but they also cannot blind us to the larger truth that we must rise above our past. In the days that followed, the case became the topic of heated debates across the nation. Was Maya right? Should someone like Gary Jensen, whose entire identity seemed rooted in hatred, be allowed to claim victimhood? But the most striking moment came when Gary, who had once been an unapologetic voice of racism, took the stand. His testimony wasn't full of excuses or justifications. It was full of regret, and for the first time, he acknowledged the harm his words had caused. The moment was transformative, both for him and for those who had watched him. He spoke with a vulnerability that no one had expected, and in that room, the line between victim and perpetrator blurred. The jury deliberated. And while the legal case concluded with Gary being granted compensation for his injuries, the real change occurred outside the courtroom. His case became a symbol of the possibility of personal transformation. People began questioning their own biases, their own judgments, and their own willingness to see someone as more than their worst mistake. Maya Turner, in that moment, had not just defended a client. She had defended humanity's capacity for change and the power of empathy to heal even the deepest divides. The city that had once watched in disbelief now stood in awe, knowing that Maya had taken a bold step not just for the law, but for humanity.